right, Scotty, let's bring Tim on if my buttons would like to work. That'd be a nice novel thing. There we go. Tim, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Jason?
Excellent. Thank you very much for joining us today. Tim is with MinnesotaBigfoot.com. How long has MinnesotaBigfoot.com been in existence?
The website's probably been up for about 4 years now. Our group's probably been together for about 6 years.
All right, very good, sir. Now, if you go to MinnesotaBigfoot.com, you have pictures, you have audio, you have video, blogs, all sorts of good stuff, bios on the investigators. You've obviously put a lot of thought and a lot of time into the pursuit of a Sasquatch. What made you a believer? Or before I actually assume that you are a believer, maybe I should ask you, is this what do you believe, or are you just trying to determine whether or not this thing is actually true?
My personal goal is trying to determine if this thing is true. I'm not a 100% believer. I'm just looking for evidence and trying to answer questions, basically, and that's kind of the role of our group.
All right, very good, sir. And I guess it leads me to my next, and I don't know if it's a question or observation, but, you know, I'm skeptical like a lot of people, and if some people go to extreme, they poke fun at you, you know, and I don't want to do that. We have fun with the subject matter here, but I don't want to do that because I'm the guy that has done a lot of reading on, like, the Roswell incident and things like that, and I believe there's a government cover-up. And so I'm not going to just poo-poo and say, no, Sasquatch doesn't exist. I think where my skepticism lies, and I think a lot of people's, are some of the eyewitness reports that you hear and some of the people that, you know, for example, not this last meeting, but the meeting before they had down in the Cromwell area, eyewitnesses stood up and talked about their accounts of dealing or running into Bigfoot or Sasquatch. And there was one gentleman that just made me pull my hair out of my head. He says he was on his way to go cut the grass, and he drives by his neighbor's house, and between the house and the garage, he notices a 9-foot-tall creature, black furry creature, and he didn't stop to investigate or call anybody because he had to get that grass cut, and that was mightily important to get that done. Now, when you hear things like that, it makes you scratch your head and just think, my God, this world's populated with crackpots. Do you find that to be the case?
Yeah, actually you do. You do find a lot of crackpots in this field, and you do find a lot of misidentifications and people who have Bigfoot on their mind and who do see Bigfoot in the woodwork or in the trees or whatever you want to call it. This gentleman's experience very well could have been true and legit. You know, if this was a house in the Cromwell area where this meeting took place, and if this house was adjacent to the woods, wooded property line, it's very well could be a legit sighting. I don't want to say that it wasn't. So, but I understand your skepticism, and there are a lot of reports like that. Where
specifically do you lie on a scale of 50? I mean, are you 50-50 on it? Are you 60-40? Or do you lean toward believing that this creature does exist?
I do. I lean towards this creature existing, not 100%. I think the biggest wealth of information that we have on this topic is the amount of sightings that have occurred over the last 400 years. Documented sightings, you know, relationships with the Native Americans, being in the Native American history, early settlers seeing these creatures, up to date with very impeccable, you know, police officers, mail delivery carriers, wildlife biologists having sightings of these creatures. So I trust a lot of the reports. I don't trust all of them. I think there is a lot of fallibility in them, being that there probably have been a lot of misidentifications, and there probably has been some hoaxes taking place, and there's just been simply some people who want to see Bigfoot out there and who maybe just made themselves believe that they saw Bigfoot, and what they really saw was something else, a person jogging in the distance or perhaps a black bear. So, no, I think that the wealth of information that's out there, along with a lot of the evidence gathered, points to the possibility that something very well could be out there.
Again, sorry, go ahead.
And that's all of our people in my organization are all in that exact same boat. We do have a few people that have had sightings, and I have no reason to disbelieve them. They're not looking for any kind of gain. They're not looking for any type of, they're not looking for any spotlight. They're not looking for trying to make any money. It's just really, a lot of them are actually really kind of afraid to tell people about their sightings. They're afraid they're going to be made fun of. So I have no reason to disbelieve them.
Have you yourself had any kind of sighting or what you believe could have been that creature?
I've never had a visual sighting, no. I do believe that there was a good possibility that I've been close to them. Once working out in West Virginia for a wildlife, for their state wildlife unit, and also here in Minnesota. I believe I've gotten close to them, had some close encounters, you could say, without having a visual of them.
Again, we're speaking with Tim. He's with MinnesotaBigfoot.com.
Hey, Tim, I'm on your website, MinnesotaBigfoot.com. Looking at the pictures here, you got pictures of footprints, actually, and some tufts of hair that are on barbed wire and whatnot. Have you heard any stories whatsoever come across? My big thing is, have they found any carcasses of Bigfoots at all around anywhere in the U.S.? Bones, anything like that?
No, they have not. They haven't found bones. They haven't found, at least not what's been a conclusive find. I mean, of course, there have been all kinds of strange things that have been found, but as to date, no, there has not been, to my knowledge, anything that's really been found. But then again, like you were talking about, government conspiracies, I'm not a conspiracy guy, but I do believe that if something was found, that Bigfoot would be something that they wouldn't want the public to know. So there may have well been all kinds of finds, but there's a bit of a cover-up.
Why is the Northland such a hot spot as of late?
It's always been a hot spot. Minnesota is a great state for this animal if it exists. Just the amount of tracklands of forest that we have and the conditions that we have, lots of food and lots of water resources and a lot of shelter. The only reason it has been as of late is really because of the Finding Bigfoot show, which has been here and has raised some, a lot of public concern and has prompted a lot of these town hall meetings. But there's been a history of sightings in Minnesota that, go way back to the 60s and 70s. So, just the show, these town hall meetings and doing radio shows like yourself and things like that.
Mm-hmm. I was reminded of the trail cam picture from 2009 near Reamer. Have you had a chance to look at that?
Yeah, certainly. I was looking at that when that came out. Mm-hmm.
And what was your determination? Just a guy in a suit or something that can't be explained?
My determination of that, and I actually did call into your show the day that you were discussing that.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, I did. And my personal determination, along with a lot of my colleagues in this field, was that it was a man in a suit.
Okay.
Just the posture of the subject in the photo, and just the lacking characteristics of what many witnesses have accounted. There are specific characteristics that do go along with this animal, and that subject in that photo really lacked a lot of those characteristics, and to me looked more like a man in a suit. Not to mention there was no additional data and information collected surrounding that entire photo. If someone just gets a photo and says, here's a photo, you want to know the story, you want to know the background, you know what I mean? And as far as I know, there was no history there.
Right.
Or no further information, no tracks found, no vocalization heard, et cetera, et cetera. So my interpretation that's a hoax, and I don't know if the gentleman who collected the photo, if they hoaxed it themselves. I'm not calling them out. But they very well may have been hoaxed themselves. So if somebody knew of these guys who are supposed Bigfoot investigators and they know they had a trail cam on so-and-so's property, hey, let's go play a joke on them.
Well, I got to tell you, too, the picture I'm looking at it now, it looks like he's wearing a pair of choppers. So
yeah, right.
You bring up the trail cam, and that leads me to my next question. Again, we're speaking with Tim from MinnesotaBigfoot.com. Why do we not have more pictures snapped with these trail cams?
Well, there are some purported trail cam photos that have been captured of Bigfoot. You probably don't hear about them as much, and if you do hear about them, it's probably painted in such a light where it's a joke. If you do go to the BFRO's website, which is the largest Bigfoot organization, you can see a few, or one or two, I believe, that are what they consider to be real. One's called a Jacobson's photo. I kind of lie on the fence with those. I don't know. I don't I haven't made a conclusion whether I believe those are real or not. But the truth about trail cams is most people associate hunters' trail cams and the photos that they capture with Bigfoot. So they think that, hey, there's trail cams of deer and of raccoons, and why can't, we get a picture of Bigfoot? What's the deal?
Right.
Well, you think about the population of deer, the population of small animals like raccoons and possums, all the other things that are captured on trail cams, which have a very high population. So the instance of getting one on a camera is just, 10 to 1 already.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention they're probably also left out with some type of bait, so these animals have a reason to come to these trail cameras. And we don't know what Bigfoot is attracted to. We don't know if we can bait these animals. We don't know what scents really draw them near. So if you put out a trail cam out in the middle of the woods with bait, it's a very low probability that you're going to get something to come in that could be a Sasquatch. So not to mention that a lot of the trail cams that people are using, these hunter trail cams you get from Walmart or Gander Mountain, they're not very good quality trail cameras in the event of capturing an animal like a Sasquatch on photo. First of all, a lot of them have very low trigger response. So by the time the subject's in the field of view of the camera, the time it takes for the camera to actually wake up, snap that picture, the subject can be out of the field of view if it's just passing by, and it's passing by at a good clip. So go ahead.
I was just going to ask you, how many cases do you investigate a year?
I would say usually we get about 1 or 2 reports a year, good concrete reports that we believe are authentic, and we will investigate those, whether it's a track find or whether someone said that something they've seen a subject out their back window. But yeah, usually we do 1 or 2. We do have a research area that we research primarily, but we certainly follow up on reports wherever they may be.
You got a lot of pictures on your website of twisted trees. Can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. The twisted tree phenomenon is something that Bigfoot researchers, scientific community associate with Sasquatch, and that's normally something that you find with chimpanzees and gorillas, and that's basically it's a marker for them. So they'll take a tree, they'll snap it over with their hand, or in some cases, if it's large, they'll actually twist it and create that twisting kind of breakage at some point within the tree. And we have found a few of those. We call them all inconclusive. We don't call them Bigfoot evidence because, as to my knowledge, no one's actually seen one of these animals grab a tree and twist it. It's just a theory that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's basically what that is.
And just one more before we let you go, Tim. You've never seen one, but you say you've had some close encounters. What would be your closest encounter that you believe with a Sasquatch?
My closest encounter was while I was working in West Virginia. I was in the Appalachian Mountains working on a private logging for a private logging company in a gated-in forest tract. And I was stalked by something through a very thick kind of vegetation rhododendron patch. And what happened was, as I walked through this rhododendron patch, I could hear something walking behind me. I would stop, and I could hear the subject bipedal footsteps creeping up behind me, but far enough away where I couldn't see it. And then it would stop, and then I would continue walking, and then it would stop. And this happened for about 10 or 15 minutes until I got pretty frightened, and I got into a clearing. And when I got into this clearing, I could still hear this thing walking behind me. And to my right, this large bush, tree, whatever you want to call it, thick piece of vegetation, started thrashing back and forth to the right and the left. So there was 2 subjects in the area that wanted me to leave the area.
Yeah.
So I did.
That'd be enough. Incontinence would rear its ugly head for me at that point.
Yeah, I'd be out.
How many Jack Link beef jerky jokes do you hear during a day?
There's definitely a few that we joke on each other. We're out in the field. Yeah, it's a good time.
All right. Hey, Tim, we really appreciate your time this morning, and thank you very much. And if you come across anything more concrete, you have the phone number. Give us a buzz, all right?
Awesome.
Thanks, buddy.
I appreciate it, Jason.
Hey,
thank you.
We appreciate your time. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you very much.
That's Tim from MinnesotaBigfoot.com. We thank him for giving us some time here this morning to, I don't know if he cleared anything up, but I like the fact that he's coming from it with an objective eye.
Yeah, that he's skeptical as well, sure.
He's not just coming out and saying, it exists. I'm going to tell you it exists. You're not going to tell me otherwise. he gets a piece of information, he tries to break it down and figure out, okay, why wouldn't this be real, until he gets to a point where there's something unexplained. Then that makes you scratch your head. So you like to hear people like that, because that takes, for me, it takes the crackpot aspect out of it right there.
Absolutely.
And I'm more apt to listen. So again, it's MinnesotaBigfoot.com is the website. And as far as Sasquatch is concerned here in the Northland, I guess stay tuned. This has been an ongoing bit, and I'm sure it will continue to be.